The conference room fell silent after my father's declaration. I stood at the doorway, lunch tray still in hand, having just thought to bring sandwiches to what I knew would be a long afternoon meeting. My mother didn't even look up from her spreadsheets as she added her comment about warehouse workers. "Maya, please," my older brother Devin said, his tone dripping with condescension. "We're trying to salvage Dad's manufacturing business. This is serious financial strategy, not break room gossip." I nodded quietly and backed out, closing the door behind me. Through the frosted glass, I could see their silhouettes hunched over documents, voices rising in what sounded like panic. My father's company, Sterling Manufacturing, had been hemorrhaging money for 18 months. I knew the details, all of them, but they'd made it abundantly clear over the years that my input wasn't welcome. "Still bringing them food?" asked Rita, our longtime receptionist, as I passed her desk. "Honey, when are you going to stop letting them treat you like the help?" "It's fine, Rita," I said, setting the tray on her desk. "Want a sandwich?" She shook her head, her expression sympathetic. Rita had been with Sterling Manufacturing for 23 years. She'd watched me grow up in these offices, first as the youngest child trailing behind my successful siblings, then as the family disappointment who'd chosen to work in the warehouse instead of getting an MBA like Devin and my sister Veronica. What Rita didn't know, what none of them knew, was that I'd done far more than just get an MBA. But that was information I kept carefully guarded, just like I'd guarded it for the past 7 years. I headed down to the warehouse floor, where I officially spent my days as an inventory logistics coordinator. It was honest work and I genuinely enjoyed it. The warehouse staff respected me because I actually did my job well, never pulling rank or acting like I was above the work. I knew every product line, every supplier, every shipping route. I'd optimized our inventory system twice in the past 3 years, cutting overhead by 17%. My family had barely noticed. Devin took credit for the improvements in his quarterly reports to Dad. "Hey Maya," called out Jerome, our warehouse supervisor. "Got a minute? The new scanning system is doing that weird thing again." I spent the next hour troubleshooting the software, my mind only partially on the task. The other part was running calculations about my family's business crisis. I'd seen the real numbers, not the sanitized versions they discussed in their meetings, but the actual financial statements. Sterling Manufacturing was 30 days from insolvency. They didn't know I'd seen those numbers. They definitely didn't know I was the reason they'd gotten an emergency meeting with Cascade Investment Group, one of the most exclusive private equity firms on the West Coast. My phone buzzed. A text from my mother. "Family dinner tonight. 7 p.m. Your father wants everyone there." No, please. No explanation. Just an expectation that I'd show up. I arrived at my parents' house that evening to find the circular driveway crowded with cars. Devin's new Mercedes, Veronica's Tesla, and several vehicles I didn't recognize. Through the large windows I could see people in business attire mingling with drinks. This wasn't a family dinner. This was a business event. I parked my modest Honda on the street and walked up the driveway. The front door was unlocked and I could hear conversation and laughter from the dining room. As I entered, the scene became clear. My parents were hosting their potential investors, trying to wine and dine their way into a bailout. "Paya." My mother's voice cut through the chatter. She rushed over, her smile tight and artificial. "There you are. Could you help Sonia in the kitchen? We're running behind on the appetizers." Not join us. Not meet our guests. Just an immediate delegation to kitchen duty. "Of course," I said quietly. Sonia, our parents' longtime housekeeper, looked mortified when I entered the kitchen. "Miss Maya, you shouldn't be helping. Your family." "It's okay, Sonia. What do you need?" We worked in companionable silence, arranging canapes and filling champagne flutes. Through the serving window I could observe the gathering. My father was holding court with 3 men in expensive suits, his laugh too loud, his gestures too expansive. Devin stood beside him, nodding eagerly at everything the men said. Veronica was charming, a woman with severe glasses and an tablet, probably an analyst. "Your father is very stressed," Sonia whispered. "I heard him on the phone this morning. Something about a Monday deadline." I nodded. Monday was when the investment committee would vote on whether to approve emergency funding for Sterling Manufacturing. My father needed $94 million to restructure debt, update equipment and cover operational shortfalls. Without it, the company would begin bankruptcy proceedings by the end of the month. Paya. Devon appeared in the kitchen doorway. We need more ice. Can you run to the store? There's ice in the garage freezer, I said. That's not enough. We need the good ice. The clear kind. There's a specialty store about 20 minutes away. He was deliberately getting me out of the house. I could see it in his expression, the barely concealed smirk. He didn't want me around when they were trying to impress important people. Sure, I said. Take your time, he added. We'll probably be wrapping up in a few hours anyway. I grabbed my keys and left, but I didn't go to any specialty ice store. Instead, I drove to a nearby coffee shop and opened my laptop. I had work to do, real work, the kind my family had no idea I was capable of. My email inbox showed 43 new messages. I sorted through them quickly, responding to the urgent ones. Most were routine matters related to my actual career, the one I'd been building quietly for 7 years while my family thought I was just a warehouse worker content with an hourly wage. One email made me pause. It was from Richard Chin, senior partner at Cascade Investment Group. Maya committee meeting moved to Sunday evening, 8 p.m. They want to accelerate the timeline. Can you join via video conference? Your perspective on the operational realities would be valuable. Richard. I checked my watch. It was currently 7:47 p.m. on Sunday evening. I typed back quickly, in transit. We'll call in from car if needed. What's the situation? His response came within seconds. Family made presentation this afternoon. Numbers don't match our due diligence findings. Multiple discrepancies in operational efficiency claims. Need your input before vote. Of course, Devon had fudged the numbers. He'd been doing it for years, padding his contributions and hiding problems. Our father either didn't notice or didn't care, too proud of his successful son to look too closely. I called Richard from the coffee shop parking lot. Maya, thank you for getting on so quickly. Richard's voice was crisp and professional. I'm here with the investment committee. We've just finished reviewing Sterling Manufacturing's pitch and we have concerns. What kind of concerns? I asked, though I could guess. They're claiming a 32% improvement in logistics efficiency over the past 3 years, attributing it to new management strategies implemented by Devon Sterling. However, our operational audit shows the improvements were actually systemic changes to inventory software and shipping protocols. The documentation we found suggests these changes were designed and implemented by someone else entirely. The signature on the internal memos is illegible, but it's definitely not Devon Sterling's. What do you need from me, Richard? The truth. Did Devon Sterling create these efficiency improvements? I paused, considering my words carefully. No. Devon Sterling has never worked a single day on the warehouse floor. He doesn't understand our inventory system well enough to optimize it. The improvements came from analyzing 3 years of shipping data, identifying bottlenecks, and implementing targeted software solutions. Devon wrote reports about the improvements after they were already working. Who designed these solutions, Maya? I did. There was a long pause. I could hear muffled voices in the background, the committee members conferring. Richard came back on the line. Maya, we need to ask you some direct questions about Sterling Manufacturing's operations. Your family's presentation painted a very different picture than what we're seeing in the actual operational data. Before we commit $94 million, we need to understand what we're really investing in. For the next 40 minutes, I answered their questions. I explained the real state of Sterling Manufacturing's operations, the genuine improvements versus the fabricated claims, the actual challenges versus the minimized problems. I laid out the truth systematically and without emotion, backed by data I'd been quietly collecting for years. This is remarkable, said a woman's voice I didn't recognize. Miss Sterling, your analysis is more thorough than what we received from your family's entire management team. Why aren't you in a leadership position at the company? That's not a decision I've been invited to participate in, I said simply. More muffled conferring. Richard came back. Maya, the committee is requesting your presence at the final approval meeting tomorrow, 2 p.m. at our downtown office. Your family will be there to receive our decision. We'd like you there as well. I'm not sure that's. It's not a request, Maya. It's a condition of our continued consideration. If you're not there, we're walking away from the deal. I closed my eyes. This was it, the moment where everything would come out. I'll be there. Good. And Maya? Come prepared to discuss your actual role in this company's operations. The committee has some questions about the structure we're being asked to invest in. I sat in my car for a long time after the call ended, watching the evening shoppers come and go from the coffee shop. My phone buzzed with a text from my mother. Where are you? Party's over. Your father wants to know why you never came back with the ice. I didn't respond. The next morning, I dressed carefully for the investment meeting. A tailored navy suit I kept for occasions that never seemed to arise, professional but not flashy. My family didn't know I owned clothes like this. They'd only ever seen me in warehouse work clothes or casual wear. I arrived at Cascade Investment Group's downtown office at 1:45 p.m. The building was all glass and steel, 50 stories of financial power. The lobby alone probably cost more than my annual salary at Sterling Manufacturing. Maya Sterling for the Sterling Manufacturing Investment Committee meeting, I told the receptionist. She checked her computer, her eyebrows rising slightly. Of course, Miss Sterling. They're expecting you. 42nd floor, conference room A. You can go right up. The elevator was silent and smooth. I watched the floor numbers climb, my reflection staring back at me from the polished doors. This was going to change everything. There was no going back after today. The 42nd floor was hushed and elegant. A young man in an expensive suit met me as I exited the elevator. Miss Sterling? I'm James, Mr. Chen's assistant. The committee is running a few minutes behind. Your family arrived about 20 minutes ago. They're in the waiting area. He gestured to a seating area around the corner. I could hear my father's voice before I saw him, loud and confident. Absolute formality at this point. Chen practically guaranteed approval on Friday. This is just paperwork. I rounded the corner. My entire family was there. Mom, Dad, Devin, and Veronica, all dressed in their best business attire, radiating confidence. They were winners on the verge of victory, about to save the family company through sheer force of will and business acumen. They saw me and the tableau froze. Maya? My mother said, her voice sharp with confusion. What are you doing here? And why are you dressed like that? I was invited, I said quietly, taking a seat across from them. Invited? Devin laughed. Maya, this is a major investment negotiation. Not a warehouse logistics meeting. I'm aware. My father leaned forward, his expression darkening. Maya, if this is some kind of joke, it's not funny. We're about to close on a $94 million funding package. I don't know what you think you're doing here, but... Mr. Sterling? James interrupted smoothly. The committee is ready for you now. All of you. Please follow me. The conference room was intimidating. A massive table, leather chairs, and a wall of windows overlooking the city. 7 people sat on one side of the table, including Richard Chin, who I recognized from our video calls over the years. They all stood as we entered. Thank you for coming, Richard said. Please sit. My family took seats on the opposite side of the table. I moved to sit beside them, but Richard gestured to an empty chair next to him. Miss Sterling, if you don't mind, we'd like you here with the committee. My mother's face went pale. Devin's confident expression cracked. Veronica was staring at me like she'd never seen me before. I'm sorry, my father said, his voice strained with forced politeness. There seems to be some confusion. Maya is our daughter, but she's not involved in the business operations. She works in our warehouse. I'm not sure why she's... Mr. Sterling, Richard interrupted, his voice professional but firm. We're fully aware of where your daughter works. We're also aware that she's the primary architect of every significant operational improvement your company has achieved in the past 7 years. The improvements you and your son have been taking credit for. The silence was absolute. Richard continued, opening a folder. Maya Sterling, MBA from Stanford, graduated top 5% of her class. Advanced certifications in supply chain optimization, logistics management, and industrial systems engineering. She's published 3 papers in peer-reviewed journals on manufacturing efficiency. And for the past 7 years, while working an hourly position in your warehouse, she's been quietly fixing every operational problem your management team has either caused or ignored. He slid documents across the table. Printed emails, system design documents, implementation plans. All of them marked with my signatures, my employee ID, my detailed notes. These are just samples, Richard said. We have hundreds of pages of documentation proving that Maya Sterling is the only reason your company has remained functional enough to even qualify for investment consideration. My father was staring at the documents like they were written in a foreign language. Devon had gone from red to white to red again. My mother's hands were shaking. Furthermore, Richard continued, and now his voice had an edge to it, your son Devon has been systematically taking credit for Maya's work in official reports for the past 4 years. He's claimed personal responsibility for efficiency improvements he didn't design, cost savings he didn't create, and operational innovations he doesn't understand. That's fraud, Mr. Sterling. Fraud that you've apparently been complicit in either through ignorance or intention. Now wait just a minute. My father started to rise from his chair. Sit down, said the woman to Richard's left. Her nameplate read Sandra Liu, Managing Director. Her voice was ice. We've invested 6 weeks and considerable resources into due diligence on your company, Mr. Sterling. What we've discovered is that you've built your pitch around the competence of a management team that has demonstrably failed at every level. The only person in your organization who has shown consistent competence is the one person you've deliberately kept out of any leadership role. She looked directly at me. Miss Sterling, we've reviewed your complete work history. 7 years of documented improvements, innovations and problem solving. You've saved Sterling Manufacturing an estimated $4.2 million in operational costs. You've improved delivery reliability by 41%. You've reduced workplace injuries by 63% through better safety protocols that you designed and implemented yourself. And you did all of this while being paid $23.50 an hour and being excluded from every meaningful business discussion. My mother made a small choked sound. Sandra wasn't finished. So here's where we are, Mr. Sterling. Cascade Investment Group is prepared to provide $94 million in emergency funding to Sterling Manufacturing. However, we have conditions that are non-negotiable. She slid a document across the table to my father. First, Maya Sterling will be appointed Chief Operating Officer, effective immediately with full authority over all operational decisions. Second, Devon Sterling will be removed from any operational role and placed in a limited advisory capacity with no decision-making power. Third, we require a complete restructuring of your management team, with positions filled by qualified professionals rather than family members who've proven themselves incompetent. This is absurd. Devon exploded. You can't, she's a warehouse worker. She doesn't have the experience to. She has an MBA from Stanford and 7 years of documented excellence in operational management, Richard said coldly. What she doesn't have is a track record of lying on official reports and taking credit for other people's work. Unlike you, Mr. Sterling. Veronica, who'd been silent until now, spoke up. And what about me? I'm the CFO. I've managed our finances. Into the ground, Sandra said bluntly. Miss Sterling, your financial management has been adequate at best and negligent at worst. You'll be replaced by a CFO of our choosing. You can stay on as a financial analyst if you're willing to actually do the work, but your executive role is over. My father was shaking his head, his face flushed. No, absolutely not. I'm not going to let you come in here and humiliate my family, put my youngest daughter, who's never shown any interest in leadership, in charge of my company, and push out my son who's worked his whole life. Your son has worked his whole life taking credit for your daughter's achievements, Richard said. And your daughter has shown nothing but interest in leadership. You've just been too proud or too blind to notice. She's been leading, Mr. Sterling. She's been leading from the bottom up, doing the actual work that's kept your company alive while your management team has been playing executive. He leaned forward. Here's what's really happening today. You have a choice. Accept our terms, give Maya the authority she's earned and should have had years ago and save your company. Or refuse, walk away from this funding and file for bankruptcy within 30 days. Those are your only options. The silence stretched out. I could hear the clock on the wall ticking, the faint sound of traffic from 42 floors below. My father looked at me, really looked at me for what felt like the first time in years. Maya, is this true? All of this? I met his eyes steadily. Yes. Why didn't you tell us? Why didn't you? You never asked, I said quietly. And when I tried to participate, you told me business meetings were for actual contributors, not warehouse workers. My mother flinched like I'd slapped her. Every time I suggested an improvement, Devon took credit, I continued, my voice still calm but carrying clearly through the room. Every time I solved a problem, Veronica wrote reports that left out my involvement. Every time I tried to be part of the family business, you reminded me that I'd chosen to work in the warehouse. As if that made me less valuable. Less worthy of being heard. Why? My father's voice cracked. We didn't realize. You didn't want to realize, I said. It was easier to believe Devon was brilliant and I was content being invisible. Easier than acknowledging that your youngest daughter might be the most competent person in the company. Sandra cleared her throat. Mr. Sterling, we need a decision. Sign the agreement with our conditions or we're done here. My father looked at the document, then at Devon, who was staring at the table. Then at my mother, who had tears in her eyes. Finally back at me. If I sign this, if you become CEO, will you save the company? I'll do what I've always done, I said. My job. Actually do the work instead of just claiming credit for it. He picked up the pen with a shaking hand and signed. The meeting concluded with handshakes and formal congratulations that felt surreal. My family left the conference room in shell-shocked silence. I stayed behind at Richard's request. Maya, he said once we were alone, I want you to know that we're genuinely excited about this partnership. Your operational analyses over the past 2 years have been exceptional. We wouldn't have considered Sterling Manufacturing at all if not for your work. 2 years. I said carefully. He smiled. You didn't think we randomly reached out to your father's company, did you? We've been watching your work for 2 years, Maya. Your inventory optimization system caught our attention when you presented it at a supply chain conference. You didn't know we had people there. We've been waiting for the right moment to make a move, and your father's financial crisis provided that opportunity. You orchestrated this, I said slowly. The timing, the emergency meeting, all of it. We created an opportunity, Richard corrected. What you do with it is entirely up to you. But yes, we wanted you in a position where your family would have to see your actual value. Where they couldn't ignore you anymore. I thought about that for a moment. Thank you. Thank us by turning Sterling Manufacturing into the success we know it can be. You have the skills, Maya. You've just never had the authority. Now you do. I left the Cascade offices and took the elevator down to the parking garage. My phone had 17 missed calls, 12 from Devon, 3 from Veronica, 2 from my mother. I ignored all of them and drove home to my small apartment. That evening my father called. I almost didn't answer. Maya, he said when I finally picked up. His voice sounded old, tired. Can we talk? Your mother and I, we'd like to talk. Hey, I said. Not on the phone. Can you come to the house? Please. I drove over, noting that Devon's Mercedes and Veronica's Tesla were both absent. It was just my parents' cars in the driveway. They were waiting in the living room, sitting close together on the couch like they were bracing for bad news. My mother had been crying. My father looked like he'd aged 10 years since the morning. Maya, sit down, my father said. Please. I sat in the armchair across from them, waiting. We owe you an apology, my mother began, her voice shaking. Not just for today but for years. We've been terrible parents to you. Not terrible, my father said. Blind. Dismissive. Proud. We put Devon on a pedestal because he fit what we thought success looked like. And we completely missed that you were the one actually holding everything together. I didn't say anything. What could I say? Rita called me this afternoon, my father continued. She chewed me out for 20 minutes about how we've treated you. She said she's been watching you fix problems and solve crises for 7 years, and we've never once acknowledged it. She said you've saved the company a dozen times over and we didn't even notice. She's right, my mother whispered. Maya, we're so sorry. We made you feel worthless in your own family. We made you feel like you weren't good enough. And all this time you were better than all of us, my father finished. Better at the work. Better at staying humble. Better at doing what needed to be done without needing credit or praise. I felt something tight in my chest loosening slightly. I didn't do it for credit. We know, my father said. That's what makes it worse. You did it because you cared about the company. About the employees. About doing good work. And we treated you like you were nothing. What happens now? I asked. My father took a deep breath. Now you save the company. Really save it. Cascade is right, you should have been COO years ago. Maybe you should be CO. I clearly don't know what I'm doing anymore. I don't want to be CO, I said. But I do want to be respected. I want to be heard when I speak. I want my work acknowledged, not stolen. Can you do that? Yes, they both said simultaneously. What about Devon? I asked. My father's face hardened. Devon and I had a very difficult conversation this afternoon. He's taking a leave of absence from the company. When he comes back, if he comes back, it will be in a junior position where he can actually learn the business instead of just pretending he knows it. He has a lot of growing up to do. And Veronica? She's angry, my mother admitted. She feels humiliated. But she's also smart enough to know that she kept her job when she probably shouldn't have. She'll come around or she'll leave. Either way, you don't have to deal with her undermining you. I nodded slowly. Okay. Okay, my father repeated. That's all. What else is there to say? You apologized. You're making changes. Now we have to see if they stick. My mother started crying again, harder this time. I'm so proud of you, Maya. I should have said that years ago. I'm so proud of who you are. I felt my own eyes burning. Thank you. We talked for another hour, clearing the air on years of dismissals and disappointments. It wasn't a perfect reconciliation. Too much had happened, too many years of feeling invisible. But it was a start. On Monday morning, I walked into Sterling Manufacturing's executive offices for the first time as Chief Operating Officer. Rita nearly fell out of her chair when she saw me. Maya? What are you? Oh my God, is it true? Did they really make you COO? They really did, I said, smiling. She whooped and ran around her desk to hug me. It's about damn time. Oh honey, I've been praying for this day for years. The warehouse staff threw an impromptu celebration during lunch break. Jerome gave a speech about how I'd always treated everyone with respect, never acted superior, and actually knew how to do the work. Several people cried. I might have cried a little too. The transformation of Sterling Manufacturing took time. I spent my first month as COO systematically documenting every operational process, identifying inefficiencies, and implementing evidence-based solutions. I promoted 3 warehouse workers to management positions because they demonstrated competence and leadership. I fired 2 executives who'd been coasting on tenure rather than performance. The numbers started improving immediately. Within 6 months, Sterling Manufacturing was ahead of every projection Cascade had made. Within a year, we were profitable for the first time in 3 years. Devon eventually came back to the company working in sales. He was better at it than he'd ever been at operations, and he was humble enough now to admit when he didn't know something. We weren't close, but we were civil. Veronica left after 8 months to take a CFO position at another company. We wished her well. She's apparently doing fine there. My parents and I rebuilt our relationship slowly. Trust doesn't come back overnight, but they made genuine efforts to see me, really see me, and to value my contributions. My father started asking my opinion in meetings and actually listening. My mother stopped making comments about my clothes or my choices. 2 years after becoming COO, Richard Chin called me. Maya, we're impressed with Sterling Manufacturing's turnaround. The board wants to discuss acquisition opportunities. Are you interested in exploring expansion? Send me the details, I said. I'll review them with my team. People I'd hired, trained, and empowered. People who were competent and dedicated and actually did the work. Richard laughed. You've come a long way from the woman who was just bringing sandwiches to meetings. No, I said quietly. I was always this person. People just needed to stop assuming otherwise. I hung up and looked out my office window at the warehouse floor below. Workers were loading trucks, moving inventory, doing the essential work that kept everything running. Real work. Important work. The kind of work I'd never been ashamed of, even when my family thought I should be. My phone buzzed with a text from my father. Dinner tonight? Your mother wants to celebrate your Forbes profile coming out. I smiled. The Forbes article had been unexpected. 30 under 40 manufacturing leaders to watch. They'd interviewed me about turning around a failing family business while working from the warehouse floor up. The profile was titled, "The COO Who Fixed Everything While Everyone Else Took Credit." I texted back, I'll be there. Some stories take years to unfold. Some power reveals happen slowly in boardrooms and balance sheets rather than dramatic confrontations. But the ending is the same. Truth comes out, competence rises, and the people who did the real work finally get recognized. I'd spent 7 years being invisible, dismissed, and underestimated. Now I was exactly where I'd always deserved to be, leading the company I'd been saving all along. And my family finally understood what it cost them to refuse to see me.